Is that better? Yes. All right, thank you. I don't have to use my teacher voice now, though, right? Okay, all right. So welcome again. And as we go through this meeting today, I want you to reflect on the fact that we're in the midst of our holiday season, and I celebrate Christmas, I celebrate Hanukkah, and I celebrate Kwanzaa. I know there are a lot of things that people celebrate in our community during this time period, and it's important for you to know that your city government recognizes and supports all of those celebrations. So as we start our meeting off today, we're going to have a word of prayer by Commissioner Jenny Holland, and when she finishes, we're going to be led in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag by the Boyle County High School football team and one of their coaches. So Ms. Holland, please. Oh, I might charge to use this.
Okay, let us pray. Lord, help us to open our eyes tonight to see our neighbors' needs and open our ears to hear what the community is saying and be ready to listen. Help us to keep our minds open and understand and respect others, and open our hearts and ready our hands to serve in ways that strengthen and unite our community. In your name, amen.
You guys want to come on up here? Right here in the front? You know, anybody that's a Cub Scout or Boy Scout know how to salute the flag, right? All right, guys.
You started getting it? The pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And don't you guys move. Y'all just stay right there, okay? Y'all gonna be in the hot seat this evening.
He got a little nervous when they got called on the spot there.
Well, it's just like being called to the principal's office, right? Okay, Coach, you want to tell us a little bit about why we might have you and your team here today? The rumor has it that you all won a few football games.
Yeah, we won a few football games this year. It was an undefeated season for our football program. I said we had 9 seniors. I got a few of them here with us today. Some of them are playing basketball. Some of them are in drama. Some of them are in all these other things. So it's a tough time to really kind of get them all out at this time. Just a testament to this is in all my years. I've been doing this 15 years. It was one of the funnest groups I've ever coached. Just a joy to be around. They made it fun to come out every day to work. And these guys, that was a big thing about a pregame speech before the final game. It was they earned the right to be here, and people don't see all what they do. They work a lot when it's dark. We're in the mornings. We start out in the mornings before anybody else gets to school. I think we're probably the first people, even before some of the principals get to school, whoever's doing there. They're in there working in the weight room all winter, and we'll start January 4th on the next one. But it is a testament to their hard work that they earned the right to be there, to be in a championship game and won it. And then I said, let's see if they've earned the right to play with us. So we end up winning 41-0 and went the fourth state championship in a row. And just very, very proud of them. And can't say enough about the kids. I said, I got the best seat in the house. I didn't score a touchdown, make a play, make a tackle or nothing. But I was there. I had the best seat in the house, get to watch them play and perform and work hard and achieve a goal. They said we've all set that goal, our team did, to win a state championship and to do all these things. And to see them achieve it is really special. When you see young kids that sacrifice a lot, now we're all in the time of the reset kind of mindset. If they're starting to get beat, they just click it off and hit the reset button. And to see them sacrifice for each other, and they could all maybe got the ball more here, did this here, or did that there, but they sacrificed to play together and win a state championship and achieve that one common goal is very, very proud of them.
Well, before we give them a round of applause, would you identify the 9 seniors for us?
We got Sage Dawson. You want to say something, Sage? Jace Crow, Keenan Stewart are all here with us. Aiden Gosser, Austin Gorley. Help me. Who? Yeah, Chandler Payne. Don't call their nicknames. Avery Bodner. Avery Bodner's obviously one of, who else? Josh Bixler. So we had a great group. They were fun to coach and fun to be around.
Did he pass the test, guys? Get all 9 of them? Look, we want to give you guys a round of applause. Congratulations. We have a key to the city for you, coach, and a key to the city for organizing the seniors and tell those senior wannabes they can come back. And this time next year we'll give them 5 in a row, right? All right. Well, let's be sure you heard the coach said they were very victorious on the football field, but said they were also very victorious in the classroom doing lots of other neat academic things. And then one of the seniors is not present tonight because he is in a play. So very creative things that these young men and women are doing. So we should all be very proud of them. Okay, let's move along then. The chair has in need of a motion to approve the agenda tonight. There is one deletion, item number 21. We've been asked to table it until our January the 8th meeting. So would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll make a motion. I'll second it.
All right, and probably moving second that we approve the amended agenda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you. I don't think any of them are working, so we'll try to do it. I'm not going to. Okay, look, we have 39 things on our agenda tonight. So it's a long agenda. You just heard me say this was the last meeting of the year. We don't meet again until January the 8th, 2024, in a regular meeting. I'm pretty sure there's going to be some special meetings between now and that time period, but I'm going to try to push the agenda tonight. I promised staff that I'd get them out of here by a reasonable time because some of them have not started their holiday shopping yet. So you all have to help me with that, okay? So, hear the public. We welcome you an opportunity to talk to us at this point in our agenda about things that are on the agenda. Raise your hand. I recognize you come to the podium. You can talk to us for 3 minutes or less. We will not respond back to your comments. We'll just listen. Is anyone desiring to hear us or speak to us about things that are on the agenda tonight? If you're on the agenda, you'll get your chance, but in case you are not on the agenda, but you want to speak to one of those items, now's the time to do that. Oh, I saw some rumblings. Okay, let's go on then. Hearing no one, let's move along. So the next item on the agenda that's planned is we hear from the arts, about our Arts Citizen of the Year. Ms. Mimi Becker is going to make that presentation.
Thank you. Okay. Oh, I'm live. Thank you for the opportunity. As you remember, we've been doing this now for several years, and this is the 20th year, not coming to the commission with the announcement, but the 20th year we have named an Arts Citizen of the Year. It's our privilege to do that at the Arts Commission. We also want to thank the city for everything that happened to make 2 events this summer, late in early fall, whatever. So wonderful. The gallery hop, all the lights, I wish Josh was here because I harassed him forever about all the lights. So the lights were beautiful, the night was wonderful, and we appreciate all the city's help on that. And of course, Constitution Square Festival, so we can talk about those things later. So I want to announce our Arts Citizen of the Year. I always want to point out that this makes you seem maybe a little old, but Wilma Brown was the first of the 20, and very deserving. And a number of people in the next newsletter, the entire list will be in there. Steve Meadows has named the group ACES, Arts Citizens Emeritus. I thought that was very clever of him. Of course, he taught for many years and was smart. So we're really pleased also to honor a group or an organization as we did last year. We named the Farmers Market last year for their efforts in promoting the arts at their festival and starting Constitution Square Festival and all that. So the Arts Citizen of the Year is Steve Hoffman. We have chosen Steve, and it was I can tell you, Elizabeth Stamps is here tonight. She's on our board. It was a lengthy discussion. It required even additional time after the board meeting in order to really narrow it down. We have so many wonderful art citizens in this community. Steve was selected because of his
from Center College is going to lead the presentation. She got sound, okay. She can use her teacher voice too, though, right?
All right, so my name is Kaylin Wiles. I'm a professor of sociology at Center College, and I'm here with a couple of students. We are following up on a presentation that we gave last week about homelessness in our community. We have been partnering with the Boyle County ASAP group to collect local data about issues that are pressing in our community. And this year we collected data about homelessness. And we're going to just tell you a little bit about what we found. We handed out a couple of handouts. If you don't have one, we do have some extras if you would like them. One of the handouts is the survey that we handed out to people experiencing homelessness, and the other handout is the pink one has the statistics that we found from that survey. So we conducted interviews with a total of 19 community members, and we collected surveys from people experiencing homelessness currently. We collected 25 of those surveys so far. We're going to continue to hand out those surveys, and we will maybe give you an update as those surveys come in. We don't think that the 25 number is exhaustive. We've gotten estimates that our homelessness population is maybe 3 to 4 times that number. I'm going to have one of our students talk a little bit about this book, which is got a lot of recent data about homelessness as a nationwide problem, and has some ideas of things that we could do in our community to address the problem. So here's Gracie Falk, and she's one of our students.
Okay, alrighty, let me just get this up. From our interviews with members from all areas of the community, we saw some common perceptions about what led to homelessness, including mental health, substance use disorder, poverty, unemployment, and luck. Research from the 2022 book, Homelessness is a Housing Problem, has found that these views are not uncommon throughout the country, but in reality, these explanations do not account for the whole picture. Using data from cities across the nation, the research has shown that none of these explanations have a strong correlation with homelessness. Mental health issues and substance use disorders are certainly triggers or risk factors for homelessness, but the data clearly shows that regional variation in rates of homelessness can be explained by the cost and availability of housing. Housing market conditions explain why poverty cities like Detroit and Cleveland have low rates of homelessness. High rental costs and low vacancy rates are two of the biggest culprits, and these are the issues for people in our community. The question is, what should we do? Well, here's some good news. Through our interviews, it is clear that most everyone agrees that homelessness is a problem in Boyle County, and it must be addressed. There are three main structural areas to consider when addressing homelessness. This starts with preventing people from becoming unhoused. In other words, focusing on the inflow of people becoming homeless, including making sure that we have more access to affordable housing and providing income supplements and rent assistance when people can't afford housing. Second part is the crisis response, where there is an active aiding of people experiencing homelessness with the resources like shelter and food. One thing is that we think would be really helpful in Boyle County is to have a coordinated point of entry for response services, a single point of contact for families as they seek support from the homeless response system. Finally, there's outflow. This includes the rapid rehousing, as in getting families in permanent housing as soon as possible. This step provides a way for people in crisis to experience long-term recovery and stability. It tends to be the major bottleneck of the system because of the lack of permanent housing solutions. Local governments can fund housing rental subsidies for those households facing eviction or homelessness, or we could use a range of regulatory tools for tenants' protections, ease of construction, eviction protection, rent stabilization, zoning changes, and the streamlining of various permitting processes.
Okay, so now I just want to go very briefly through the pink sheet that we distributed. This has the descriptive statistics from our survey currently. And we went through this last week, so I don't want to go through. I know that we're short on time, so I'll try to be quick. You can see that the variables that we collected data on are on the left side, starting with age and going down. And then on the right side, it shows what percentage of the survey respondents responded within each of those variable categories. In terms of age, the youngest person we surveyed was 21 and the oldest person was 64. You can see that 54% of the people we surveyed were living in Boyle County at the time that they lost their housing. And I want to just say a couple of things about employment. So a significant number of people are unemployed in this community. 75% of people who we surveyed were unemployed. Perhaps more surprising than that is that 16.7% of people who are currently experiencing homelessness in our community are employed full-time. There was also a strong relationship that we found. This is not on this sheet, but I wanted to mention it, between employment and criminal record. 17 of the 18 people with a criminal record, or 94% of those people, were unemployed, which suggests that these individuals with a criminal record are having a hard time finding jobs in our area. I'll let you kind of skim the rest of that page. If you turn to the next page, I just want to point out a few things. You can see that 60% of the people we surveyed have children between the ages of 0 to 18. 27% of those people have children currently living with them. We see evidence of childhood trauma and kind of a lack of basic needs within this community. You can see that 44% of our population had been in foster care themselves. If you go down, this is on the second page, and you can see that over the past 30 days, 80% of people say that they are having a hard time getting enough to eat. Over the past 30 days, 80% of people said that they were having a hard time obtaining clothes, and 72% were having a hard time finding a bathroom or a shower to use, suggesting that these are areas that would be really important interventions in our community. And that there are other risk factors that they are experiencing in this community, such as chronic health problems, mental health conditions, and physical disabilities. I will leave that there. And if anybody has any questions now or after, I'd be very happy to try to answer them. I'm going to just say a couple words in conclusion. I think from our community forum last week, we saw that the community is ready and eager to solve the problem of homelessness in Danville. The first thing that we need to do is continue to work to address the stigma towards people experiencing homelessness and to reframe this issue as a housing issue so that we're not blaming the individuals themselves for being unhoused. Success in just about everything is dependent on having somewhere that we can call home. The second thing is to discuss the city's many opportunities for making a change in our housing market. An emergency shelter is an important first step in addressing the current crisis. This is a national problem and, importantly, one that we have power to also address locally. We can recommend people on the housing task force read sections of this book that we used in the class called Homelessness is a Housing Problem, How Structural Factors Explain U.S. Patterns by Colburn and Aldern. And that we can think about this in terms of the three areas of inflow, crisis response, and outflow. Ultimately, as a community, we want to get to a place where rents are lower and housing is more available. Unfortunately, the private market is not well set up for this now. Building new housing is really expensive for developers, and it isn't profitable for them to build affordable housing units. Local governments then have the power to step in and think about this creatively and address the lack of affordable housing with smart policies. We'd like to thank all of our community partners, our interview and survey participants who provided the data used in this project. We recognize that this is a serious issue in this community. We appreciate the opportunity to be members of that community and to collaborate with our community partners to collect the data. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you all for the work.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the summary. You've had 3 or 4 or 5 opportunities to present it just this past week, so you all did really good. So, wow. But keep on presenting, and I agree with you. Last Wednesday was just a start, but it opened up our eyes to the fact that this community is wanting of something, and we got to just find out what that something is. And you've given us lots of food for thought. Commissioners, you all have other questions or comments for this group?
I could just, a comment, I guess. Did you say the unemployment rate was 75% amongst the homeless?
Yeah, the people that we surveyed, 75% were unemployed. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that a certain number are actually employed but still homeless.
16.7% are fully employed and also experiencing homelessness. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't include, because we didn't survey people who were housing insecure, so we didn't, if they didn't say that they were currently experiencing homelessness, they didn't take part in our survey. So there's a bigger population of people then that have unstable housing that we didn't survey.
One of the misnomers with the housing, so if you imagine your housing stock is a bell curve, the easiest way is to aid transition in homes from a lower price point into that middle, that peak. And so what studies will show you is that adding housing stock in that middle income category means folks that are in that affordable housing, which isn't necessarily affordable for a developer to invest in. You have people moving out of that market into the middle housing market, which is affordable at times for a developer to build. So while people, the suggestion and the question was asked the other night, why don't we build affordable housing? That doesn't necessarily address it, or it isn't the way to address it sometimes. It's adding housing stock in the middle can create vacancy at the unaffordable to build. And I think that's an important nuance in the market. It's a supply and demand issue ultimately.
Yeah, I think housing availability, is really important. I have a friend who's working on looking at Airbnbs, and I'd be curious to know what we know locally about Airbnbs, because that can actually put some pressure on the housing market and take houses off of the rental market in ways that are problematic.
Yes. Other comments or questions? Again, I want to thank you. Please continue to work. Please feel free to come back to report to us some updates, and most definitely be sure you attend the next public community-wide meeting that we'll have sometime in January.
Wonderful.
Keep the
Thank you very much.
conversation going. All right, thank you all.
And I just wanted to thank them, just the timeliness of this issue is
Yes.
perfect, so thank you for choosing now to do this with the class, so.
Thanks.
Thank you, ladies. We have a Danville Architectural Heritage Review Board reappointment. The chair would like to entertain a motion to approve this reappointment.
I'll make a motion to reappoint Dana Dixon to the AHB. Her term expiring 12/1/26, as presented.
Thank you, ma'am.
Second.
Thank you, sir. They're all working now, yes, okay. Questions or comments?
I have a question. I didn't see a description of the people. Is it because they were reappointments? I don't know them.
Oh, yes.
So I happen to know this person, but the other person, I don't know anything about them. Next, so, okay.
Yeah, it is a reappointment, yeah.
So like, if we could get next time, still the description of why they're qualified, because all these people, I don't know.
I didn't have that for either of these, so.
Oh, wow.
They were
Okay.
just recommendations given to me.
Okay, interesting.
Any other comments about this reappointment of Mrs. Dixon? If not, call for the question. All those in favor of this reappointment, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, thank you. Motion carries. Next, we have a reappointment to the Senior Citizens Board. The chair will entertain a motion to accept this reappointment.
I move for reappointment of John Russell, the Senior Citizens Board.
Second.
Thank you, guys. Any other questions or comments?
I don't know him, so I won't be able to vote for him. Should I just not vote or just say no?
You can abstain or vote in the
Okay,
negative.
I'll
Those are your
abstain,
options.
just due to lack of knowledge. Thanks.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? And is there an abstention? You abstaining?
I abstain.
Yes, ma'am.
I
Get that
abstain.
for the record, okay. These two were suggested to us by the chairpersons of the group, and then Mr. Russell is a joint appointment by the city and the county, so the judge and I both talked about Mr. Russell. Okay, next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of our last meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the next meeting?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of 11/27/23, as presented.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other questions, comments, additions, or deletions? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving our minutes, say aye.
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 Those opposed, thank you. Minutes are approved.
Mayor, before the next item is addressed, I just want to remind the commission that I've recused myself from advisement of the city on this particular issue due to a prior representation of the applicant of the zone change submission. There's no active representation, but in order to remove any hint of impropriety upon my part, I'm going to recuse myself. Brian Bowman is special counsel to the city on this issue, and I will be excused and come back in when I'm told you're finished. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Bowman, you want to take his seat at the table? Was that his phone? He just danced on out here, didn't he? That's funny. Very timely, okay. Mr. Bowman, you want to present us with an overview, or should we just have a motion and move on, or what's your pleasure?
Michaela.
Oh, I didn't see
Yeah,
you.
she's listed.
Okay.
Would present the planning and
Planning
zoning
zoning
recommendation.
findings? All right.
Do you have your letter?
Okay,
Yeah.
you want me to present it again?
Yeah.
Happy to do that.
Yeah.
All right. Good evening. Planning Commission heard this application at regular session on October 25th, 2023, with 6 members present for the zoning map amendment in order to rezone 32.484 acres located at Heartland Drive and Ridgeview Road from single-family residential R1A to single-family residential R1C. After a public hearing had been conducted, the Planning Commission's vote was 4 yeas and 2 nays for recommendation, a denial to the Danville City Commission, as stated below. The Planning Commission recommends denial as there has not been sufficient demonstration of conformity with the comprehensive plan, and particularly no showing of compatibility as set out in the residential development guidance. We also find that there has been no conclusive showing of major changes, as the Planning Commission was unable to vet the 2022 housing report in order to weigh its support of the application. So, yeah, any questions for me, or?
Could you, just for the record, sort of go over the difference between R1A and R1C?
Yeah, R1A is our lowest density single-family residential zoning district. It has a lot with the 70 feet, minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet, whereas R1B, minimum lot size is 5,000 square feet, or sorry, I apologize, R1C, 10,000 is 5,000 square feet and 50-foot lot width. It also allows a few more housing types. I believe the applicant did put a condition of single-family detached, though, for this application.
Other questions?
And could you review for the record how many lots are already approved here in R1A?
He's only brought phase 1, so we do have a subdivision plat for an R1A, but it's just for one portion of this. I believe in the previous application cycle, he was thinking there would be between 100 to 110 that could be potentially fit in with an R1A. I can't say for certain. This application is 124, but, depending on how they laid out the lots, but.
Okay, so not a big difference in number. And then in, I think, 2017, 2018, the comprehensive plan showed a connector already approved years ago between
Yes.
the roads, is that correct?
Yes, in the comprehensive plan that was approved, there is a transportation plan. That map is in your all's packet. Let me see if I can, it should be in here, I believe. Yeah, it's on page 5 of the staff report under general development plan review. And there is a connector showing between Heartland and Ridgeview. There's also one that's coming out of even more west within Colonial Heights that kind of loops around, that would almost go to where Winning Colors is today. And then there's also a connector road showing out to 33. These are all just proposed collector streets, but the subregs would require that connection between Heartland and Ridgeview. And it also requires a substreet out to the Garmin Farm that goes towards Green Acres, because it's it's above 10 acres of undeveloped land, so we require a substreet in that instance.
So, yeah, I just think it's important to reiterate, it's already zoned and approved to have a connector, and it's already zoned to fit about 100 to 110 homes.
Yep.
And has been. So that's not what we're deciding today, because that's already been approved in the
Yeah.
past.
This, I believe this entire Colonial
zone
Heights,
wise.
Candlewood, and this subject property all went through a zone change at the same time to go to R1A, and then obviously along winning colors, it's now R1C.
Okay, so we're looking at 10 to 15 more lots or more, and to discuss if Mr. Sharp made the changes probably that the commission asked for.
So, yeah, that was going to be the next thing I was going to say. So about a year ago, the application came to the city commission through planning and zoning, and it was approved by planning and zoning at the time.
Yes, that's correct.
And so when it came to the city commission, there was some dialogue about whether or not planning had occurred in terms of how was the subdivision integrated into two different densities? Was there any consideration? There was a little bit of discussion about buffering, and there's nothing in our zoning ordinance that requires buffering. So that's not
No,
necessarily
not for
something-
these two zoning districts.
Yeah, right. So that's not something that really you can consider. However, he did withdraw the application from the city commission's final approval. And then, so he came back to planning and zoning, if I remember correctly now. What changes did he make from the original application that I would ask you to point that out to the city commission?
Yep, there's a more detailed conceptual plan that was submitted versus the first application. Let me just get to that page real quick, apologize. So with the first application, he just submitted a boundary line of the subject property and then showed that proposed connection between Heartland Drive and Ridgeview Road. So for this application, he did submit a proposed lot layout. And within that proposed lot layout, through discussions with staff, he did increase the lot size along that northern boundary, which adjoins Colonial Heights. So just that one row of houses, the intent, I believe, was to try and act as a buffer between Colonial Heights and then the new proposed subdivision on the subject property. And also the substreet that's showing out towards Green Acres as discussed. So those were the biggest changes, I believe. But otherwise, it just gives you a conceptual idea of what we would be looking at if it went to plating phase, if the zone change was approved. Was there anything else, Earl?
Now, couple things, what did the comp plan suggest the future land use? Is the density, in other words, is the proposed density consistent with the comp plan?
Yes. So the comprehensive plan for the future land use map, it's showing it as low-density residential, which is 5 acres, 5 dwelling units per acre or less. I believe this is at 3.82 dwelling units per acre, so it does fall within that range of what we would classify as low-density residential. So it is in compliance with the future land use map. The comp plan also directs us to look at the residential development guidance, which is within the staff report. It says not to rely on the future land use map alone. So it is in compliance with the future land use map, but you should look at that residential development guidance as well.
I might ask too that in the first go-around, Mr. Sharp wasn't going to commit to what type of housing. And this go-around, he did commit to single family.
Yeah, single family detached.
Yeah.
And we talked a lot about a transition, some of you guys that were here last time, and it sounds like he's provided the transition between neighborhoods with lot size as
Yep.
we requested.
Yep, that's
Okay.
correct. Along that northern border, they are showing bigger lots that join Colonial Heights.
Well, it sounds like Mr. Sharp has compromised and has done everything the commission has asked. I'm disappointed about the tree line, but
Yep.
that's not in the subregs, so.
Yeah, I mean, that could be something in the future that could be looked into for the zoning ordinance, but currently we do not have a regulation of that nature.
Okay, Mr. Bowman, you've been sitting here patiently.
Right,
Would you
so
like to add something to the conversation?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So the direction I need, I guess, from you all tonight, if you are going to accept the Planning Commission's recommended denial of the zone change, then you can do that as it is. It doesn't take any formal written action beyond the minutes. If you choose to not follow their recommendation and instead would vote for the zone change, then we'll need to create the ordinance. And certainly I can handle that for you all, but just would need that direction tonight.
Are those our only two options?
Well, they're probably not your only two options. You could send it back. I think you've kind of already done that once before. But I suppose if there were another reason.
Okay. And if the commission doesn't take any action at all, then the planning and zoning's,
You have 90 days.
Yeah,
So after
okay.
90 days, then the recommendation of the Planning Commission becomes final.
any questions for Mr. Bowman?
No,
Hearing none.
I'm gonna get us off center here and move that we vote for the zone change, which would be against the direction of the P and Z board. Is that right?
So you would reject the recommendation of denial by the Planning Commission
What Mr. Bowman said.
and
Exactly.
instead vote for the map amendment of the zone change.
Is there a second to Mr. Cotto's,
Yes, I'll second rejection of the planning and zoning's decision.
okay? Been properly moved in second. Now, for clarification, if you vote yea for Mr. Cotto's motion, you're voting to reject the planning and zoning recommendation. If you vote no, then you're voting to accept the planning and zoning commission's recommendations. Did I say that right, Mr. Bowman?
You did. The other way to put it is if you are in favor of the zone change, you vote yes. If you are not in favor of the zone change, then you vote no.
All right. So is that clear as mud to the commissioners?
Need a flow chart.
Hearing no other questions or comments, then the chair would like to call for the vote. And Madam Clerk, I think on this issue, I'd like to ask for a roll call vote. If that's appropriate, Mr. Bowman, is that okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, so roll call vote, please, ma'am.
Commissioner Cottle,
So I'm voting yes then, correct?
Sir, you made the motion.
I'm thinking out loud though, yeah. I got confused down the street after a while, so trying to get back home. I think that's it.
I had to do that, Kevin. I apologize.
Commissioner Peak,
No.
Mayor Atkins,
No.
Commissioner Holland,
Yes.
Commissioner Saris.
Yes.
So the motion carries. The commission has voted to reject P and Z's recommendation. So, Mr. Bowman, then you'll be
I will prepare the ordinance.
for our,
January 8th meeting
too late?
will be the next regular meeting. If you all hear it on a regular schedule in January, it will beat the 90-day deadline.
I do have a question.
Wait, don't forget it, don't forget it.
Okay, I won't forget.
I'm just trying to make sure we get within the 90 days. all right?
Yes, it will.
Yes.
So the second commission meeting in
January.
January, but if we have another meeting between, we could
You might have to have a special
certainly
call
add
meeting.
it to that,
Okay.
right?
All right. So we're good, except Commissioner Holland has a question.
Right, so can we amend the development plan? Would we have to ask Mr. Sharp to provide more access out of the development? I know it's only adding a small handful of homes, but the main concern I heard was traffic. So I wanted to see if through the ordinance, we could amend the development plan to include additional substreets to the west
Go back to P and
towards
Z.
Grace Church.
Just have to go back to P and Z?
When you go back and look at that, the drawing that is page, I think that is on page 3 of 16 in my handout, the plat that he's provided has a stub street to the east. What you're suggesting is when the final plan is developed, that staff request that right-of-way be preserved towards either directly towards Bergen Road or.
Right. I would want
to
to
the
add a
west.
condition to amend the general development plan. Is that possible? To show, I wrote it out, 2 sub-streets on the western edge of the property to provide potential future connection toward 33, west of Grace Presbyterian.
Yeah,
Is that possible?
Kayla?
we do.
Reason I was hesitating is I'm just trying to figure out where the lot line is.
Yeah.
Well, you would have to preserve the right-of-way to a spot as best you can, based on what engineering can come up with the developer's engineer. And somewhere down the road, if an adjoining property changes use, it would exploit that to make a connection. Currently, this property doesn't go all the way to Bergen Road, so it'd be unusual for this developer to go beyond their property line with right-of-way. So in the same way that on the east side, you're not going to require the developer to build the street all the way to Lexington Avenue, for example, right? You're going to, the developer is preserving right-of-way, not knowing where that future stub street would be. And so including that to the west is not unheard of at all. It's.
Right, just
Yep.
in no one else's property, just on the developer's property towards Grace as an option.
So instead of a cul-de-sac, it would be a dead end.
Something, something like that. Yep. Yeah, and we have that and actually across the street, we have something very similar to that in Streamland. And I can take you to several examples where you do have right-of-way. So some point in the future, if the neighboring property changes use and develops or something changes over there, a future connection can be made.
Right, that was the main concern of, especially the citizens in Candlewood, because it was, you wouldn't even drive through the neighborhood if you could cut over near Grace before Grace Presbyterian, so.
Okay. Other comments? Mr. Bowman, you understand what she's requesting?
I do.
All right.
And I think that the most direct answer to your question is, yes, the conversation should be had with the developer
Okay,
before, right?
okay, so it should,
Before
Before
the plan is found.
it's finalized, sure.
Yeah.
okay.
We can do that.
So that could be part of the ordinance and see if he'll agree? Okay. Okay.
Is that a part of our purview, or does that should go back to planning and zoning?
So as the development plan, it goes through planning and zoning.
Okay.
There's frequent conditions that come through that process.
Okay, all right.
So you're directing me to follow up with Josh and the developer and their engineer to see if something could be worked out in advance of the ordinance. And we will have to answer that question by January the 8th.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Good conversation. Mr. Bowman, thank you for your presence.
Pleasure to be here.
Thank you for your advice. Safe travels.
Thank you.
You're welcome to stay. And before you leave the city, I always encourage you to spend a little money someplace downtown, right? So, okay. Thank you, sir. Let's move right along, guys. You okay? All right. Randy Board, the next item is authorized positions list.
All right, thank you, Mayor. In front of you, you've got a revised recommendation for our fiscal year 24 authorized positions list. This really is just a recommendation of a job title change, primarily in the stormwater department. In simple terms, we have a classified engineer and training position, and we're recommending changing that job title to stormwater project coordinator. Josh and I have had a lot of conversations about this, and the primary reason behind the change is just to make sure we more appropriately align the job title for recruitment purposes with the true job duties and responsibilities.
Make one
And-
correction. You said project. It's stormwater program coordinator.
Program, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are correct, Earl. Yeah, sorry about that. And again, this job does not change the fiscal year 24 budget. The salary range will remain the same, just the job title only.
In talking through it with Josh, remember Commissioner Caldwell and Mayor Atkins may remember, when Josh was originally hired, he was in EIT back 15 years ago. And it worked out real well to get engineering staff support. In the market right now, we're struggling to identify, in some of the engineering firms that we work with, they're having issues with identifying EITs. And so when we looked at the program, Josh really thinks that he can accomplish a lot of the same things just using an environmentalist type background or someone that can manage the program. It's more an administrative task anyway, and train them up into the engineering side a little bit. If we hired the right person that can identify those skill sets. So it's trying to align the position with what we think we can afford in the market right now. I don't think the city can really, wouldn't advocate really funding the EIT at the level that what we've been given.
Okay.
What would the range be, the grade?
That doesn't change necessarily from the budget.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now. I'll give you the salary range on it, just.
Yeah, so we're not asking to raise that or lower that. It's the same, but
It's in the compensation that we approved.
then the original comp,
That
yeah,
right
right.
here.
Actually, that's correct. It's in that next item.
That's, yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a grade 13 on our scale right now. The salary range is 51,000 to 75,000, which was approved through the original compensation ordinance in July.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 23-12-1101?
So moved.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of passing this resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, thank you all. Motion carries. First reading of ordinance 2024. Mr. Board.
All right, thank you, Mayor. This is the follow-up ordinance request for change to the compensation classification plan based on staff's proposal at the last meeting to revise compensation rates for specific fire and police positions. Inside your packet, I have a one-page summary there that kind of outlines the changes. And I've also outlined the recommended salary ranges, which were presented at the last meeting as well. Just to clarify, the impacted positions would be your police officer recruit, your police officer, police sergeant, police detective. Within the fire department would be your firefighter recruit, firefighter, fire lieutenant, battalion chief, and deputy chief. Everything that's presented for you within the compensation recommended revisions are identical to the salary ranges that were in the proposal at the last meeting.
Okay, thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, you want to read this for us?
This is the first reading of ordinance number 2024, an ordinance amending CDO 2-96 pertaining to the classification plan, compensation plan, and policies and procedures for city personnel.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a motion at this time?
I'll make a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 2024.
Thank you, ma'am.
Second.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, roll call vote again, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Peak?
Yes.
Mayor Atkins?
No.
Commissioner Holland?
Yes.
Commissioner Saris?
Yes.
Commissioner Cottle?
Yes.
Thank you all. Motion carries. Next item on our agenda is the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. Got several things to talk about. First, we would like to, review the important dates. December the 13th, VFW is providing the city county lunch, 11 to 1. The showroom is a reminder for you. December the 25th, of course, is Christmas. Therefore, the 25th and 26th, City Hall will be closed. January 1st is New Year's, and so City Hall will be closed that day as well. January 8th is the next regular commission meeting, so we'll make sure that's on your calendars. Right now, we are thinking that we will have a retreat workshop training session with the commission that you all had talked about a little bit last year, around the 16th of January. So we will follow up later in the week with an email to you confirming that date or not. January the 20th is a streetscape ribbon cutting. And January the 22nd is the other regular commission meeting in the month of January. So right now, those are what we have, and the one that's not listed on there is the 16th, and city clerk and I will get something to you this week on that. You can see the streetscape, the traffic signals are being installed. Those are bulky poles, but those are the design loads that create those dimensions. Those are not something that we've selected architecturally. Those are based on the wind loads and the structural capacities that the state requires. That said, that project's moving on. We do anticipate the DHB, so recall we talked about reorganizing and embedding the DHB into planning and zoning because it was an aligned responsibility. We do anticipate having something on the agenda on January the 8th for your discussion, but I wanted to put that on your radar, so if you have any questions, you can follow up with us on that. Question that I have that is going to be, I would like some direction on, if nothing else, some head nods. So we were going to move into the 23 audit. Recall we talked about how backed up the accounting firms were. So after the 22 audit was finished, the firm let the finance director, Lee, and I know last week that it will be April, I believe, before they can get into the 23 audit. And so my question to you tonight really is, are you comfortable waiting to that? That is past our DLG deadline, or do you want us to aggressively try to pursue another firm to do the audit? Now,
They did a good job.
well, they've done a good job, but the thing is that it will cost more money to switch firms. And so when we did the RFP last year, it was about, what, do you remember the dollar difference?
Yeah, there was about which we only had 2 respondents. We reached out to over 10 firms, only 2 submitted. The difference was about 40 to 45, depending on the year, because they increased it each year, was about $45,000. So we, and I put some feelers out today. I hadn't got any responses back from the folks that I do know. Which it was a quick turnaround for them. So it would likely cost significantly more than we had budgeted and what we had in our RFP. But they have let me know earliest they could get started is April 1st, probably April 15th for tax deadlines. So that's the pro is it'll be cheaper. But the con is it's going to be late, and we were trying to get caught back up. So
They will finish it before the end of the 24 calendar year if we wait till April.
that's certainly an option. I'm comfortable moving either way. There can be consequences for it being late. Most of the time you get a grace period. We don't like to be late. But the alternative for not being late is a not insignificant chunk of change. So we just wanted to get your all's
Yeah,
official
Lee and I are in
feedback.
total alignment on the question. Really, it's for me, I still go back to, it seems like it's an industry problem because most folks that I've reached out to trying to see kind of how, since COVID, folks are still trying to get caught up, honestly, in that industry. That's what we're led to believe. And certainly the statements by our auditor seem to back that up. And so if you want us to try to pursue another option, it's going to cost more.
If you advertise for bid, when would that process be complete to actually award it and have someone motivated to proceed?
Well, we did that last year, and.
No, but I'm saying like
If you-
even theoretically now, if you bid it this week
Anew.
anew,
Yeah.
then you wouldn't have responses awarded till probably when, mid-January?
The second meeting, January, probably best case.
And so even if it was awarded the end of January, they'd have a start date of when? Probably late April or late February? I
So we're
just
gonna
think
be
that-
late anyway? Or,
I don't know.
I mean,
It's a good possibility that it would be late anyway. Now, could we potentially find somebody theoretically that has the schedule availability and the staff availability to fit us in? It is possible, but it is also highly possible that it's still late. It's a lot of unknowns and there's a bad consequence either way. But it's not a good option.
Could you go on parallel tracks, like,
yeah.
pursue the people who've done it before, but then they're gonna start in May, so we have a few weeks or months or whatever if we find somebody else in between?
Yeah, so we could try that. We could reserve our auditor for April and to preserve that schedule. And then meanwhile, we could seek an alternative through an RFP process to see what revised pricing we can get. We were basing that on the second bidder last time, which was last spring. And so, yeah, we could try that if you would. That's a good idea. Lee and I didn't talk about that, but we were looking at it from the perspective it's either or, but really we could do both. If you wanted to give that a shot, we'd be happy to try that.
I would like to try that.
Whatever you do, don't lose the first bidder. Because that would really set us back. You know, you get out there and start seeing you're looking for auditors and I'm holding a date for you, I might give someone else your date, but that's kind of risky. All right. In your dates that you gave out, I want to add the 15th of January, ML King Day, community-wide celebration, and City Hall will be closed on that day. 15. And then the 29th of January, somebody has a very important birth date on the 29th of January. So y'all be sure y'all hold that date. Not mine, not the mayor's, but, all right, I just hit one.
So that's what we'll do. Lee and I will meet and talk about that, and I'll try to get you an informative email out sometime over the next couple of weeks to make sure you know our schedule then. That helps. And then couple of other things. I want to thank Lee and Miranda Collins, Tommy with Parks and Rec, who helped Friday night during the small town Christmas event. I think they stepped up and really helped out. I think the police department, thank Doan and Chief and all the staff under them that were willing to change their schedules. They worked on it to make sure that the parade was covered. That was not an easy thing to do last week as the day shifted from Saturday to Friday. Schedules are hard to overcome sometimes. And we appreciate them being adaptable, and certainly Public Works has done a great job decorating the stage at Wisger Park and got the sleighs out and the lights and the things that Public Works does, I think goes unheralded sometimes. And so I want to thank not only Melanie, but everybody that put on Christmas last week, and the volunteers that helped put it together, Lahana and her group. And I think it was a good event. I think that's the feedback that I got, and I hope everybody feels the same way.
We do. We just like the way you cleaned that up.
At the end?
Yeah, you went back to Melanie's name. So yeah, we all agree with that. That was great. Yes.
Then one more thing is that we have been for a while, been in contact with sister cities. They started asking me several months ago, if you'll remember about 2015, they asked the city manager to go to Ireland. And Ron went. It's not something I had thought of until they had asked, but I certainly want to get your all's opinion on whether or not we should do that. it is something that I would pay for. The important thing for me is that I will be gone from the building for a few days. I think they said April the 16th, yeah. 16th for 9 days, starting then, so it'd be the 16th through the 25th. And I wanted to see how you all felt about that, if you all were comfortable with me being gone. I would like your authorization to be gone, if that's the case.
We can't tell you're here when you're here. So, yeah,
Well,
go ahead.
that's a good point.
Whatever you need to do.
So Milton Riegelman came last time, and he's recovering, and he's at home, so he can't represent sister cities with the request, but they have asked, they would like the city, there's credibility for the city manager position being over there for them on the trip, and certainly I don't want to let them down in that sense, and it would be something that would be, I would consider a terrific honor and opportunity to go anyway.
So you'd be going with the group?
I'd be going with the group,
okay.
and I think they've requested at least one of the commissioners to go, and hopefully that can happen. And so I wanted to mention that to you.
Yeah, I think it's important that you go.
Okay.
We don't have to give you our final decision tonight, do we?
Well, I have to pay the deposit, so yeah, I'd like to know for sure that y'all don't mind.
If he can't get that audit done for, then he may need to be at City Hall.
They need to be at City Hall. That's what we got to work out. So I don't know.
Wow. Well, I think it'd be neat myself. Just not a good time for the five of us, but that'd be nice. Put your deposit down. It's non-refundable, right?
Correct.
Just consider the donation to sister cities then. No, I'm just joking. You guys speak up. I'm okay. Yeah. They'll get back to you. They don't want, they're kind of shy tonight, so.
Okay. That's all I've got.
When's the deadline for the deposit?
The end of the month, I think is what I was given.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I'm fine with it. I think it'd be great representation.
They're nodding their heads. I guess that's,
Yeah.
okay.
Good enough.
Yes, you got
You
the
got
okay.
vacation time saved up?
Well,
I think we should probably take a motion on that for the record, that
All right.
part of the city manager's duties, that he be afforded the opportunity to go there as part of an official representative of the city. I think that'd be appropriate from a HR standpoint.
Can we amend that motion to say at his own expense?
It's your motion, it's your meeting, Mayor, it's not mine, so you can amend it any way you like.
so in the last time in 2015,
It's expensive.
the city manager agreed to pay for everything, which is the same. He did ask for a per diem the last time. I don't necessarily, I don't want that. I just want you all to authorize me to be out of the building. And I would prefer not to use vacation time if I could, because it will be.
To the extent, I'm going to step in here because it's awkward for Earl. It's not awkward for me. To the extent he's performing official duties on behalf of the city, it should not be a vacation time situation. He's representing the city there. If he's doing so at his own expense, I think the motion should be that the city authorize him to go as an official representative of the city, even though he's paying his own expenses, but to do so on the city's time.
Okay,
The chair would entertain that
That
motion.
was well said.
So
Steve.
moved.
I'll second.
Any other comments or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
It is awkward asking, but that is one of the most awkward things that I've had to do. Yeah.
Okay, let's move right along, guys. I'm not even halfway through. Wow. Whew. At this point on our agenda, it's the second time where we're here, the public, and the public can be recognized and come to the podium and can talk to us about things that are not on the agenda. And during this time period, we will basically just listen to you, but we'll do that. So here, the public. Yes, ma'am. Want to come up, recognize yourself? Introduce yourself to us, and we'll listen to you for 3 minutes or less.
I'm not sure I need that microphone, though.
Oh, that's
My
all-
name is Myra. I'm Myra Doherty. I'm a nurse practitioner here in town. worked at the hospital for 15 years. I've served this community in healthcare for a very long time. Very proud to do it. I'm now a business owner that sits on the my business sits on the corner of 2nd and Walnut, along with Tawana Skin Studio. My business is Revitalize. I've also got Trisha Jarnigan. She owns Kentucky Services. 2nd and Walnut is like a parking garage for Ephraim McDowell employees. And I'm over it. I've been paying rent for 2 years. I have talked to everybody in the hospital except for Dan McKay. I mean, I've talked to the president of HR. I've talked to the management at MedSource, because about 4 or 5 of his employees directly park on 2nd Street. The specialty center, the nurses all like to park on Walnut, and then they like to park on 2nd Street on the other side, like in front of Danville Counseling. I witness it every day. The only thing I haven't done, I spoke to Earl Coffey countless times. Josh Morgan, who is not here, I spoke to him countless times. I'm sure Ashley knows who I am from my phone calls. I met you, sir, which is
Yes,
what
ma'am.
led me to come to this meeting.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want a resolution. Like,
Yes.
I'm over it. I pay taxes. I do everything that I'm supposed to do. I believe that litigation is now over with regarding the whole tire marking. And if it is, when are we going to start ticketing people? Because I'm tired of not having my patients, they don't have a place to park. You know, some of my patients are older. Many are not, but many are. And I see sick people, and we see people with mental health issues. And it would just be nice if they could park in front of the business.
Thank you, ma'am.
Myra, thank you. You did speak to me multiple times.
I have.
The police chief was kind enough to send me an email today. I think he's got trying to work towards a strategy towards enforcement again. I'm not going to try to reiterate what that is necessarily, but we've talked about it as staff multiple times in the last
I
2
know.
weeks, and
And the part that the new lot that they've made, but it's the same cars. Like, they have an issue. Do you know what I mean? Because I've had a
Correct.
conversation with one in person, and which is ultimately what led to.
We have met with, and I'll try to reach you for the preservation of time.
Okay.
I'll try to reach you this week. But we have met with, and we'll continue to talk to the hospital. We met with, I've got a meeting with the hospital later in the week.
I have pictures with the cars and their license plate
I've
numbers.
I've observed the behavior that you're describing in the same way you verbalized it to me on the phone. I've seen it myself.
Yeah.
Right. Last week. And so we're trying to mitigate it, okay? And I'll follow up with you this week, okay?
Are you
appreciate it.
with her, ma'am, or is it the same topic? Are you with her? Yeah. You with her? No. Same topic, though? No. Oh, okay. All right. Okay. All right, thank you, ma'am.
I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
All right, yes, ma'am, you're next. I saw you waving.
Okay. Dear Mayor Atkins, dear members of the Board of Commissions, my name is Katrin Bahr, and I'm an assistant professor of German at Center College. As a German, an activist and a scholar of Holocaust and genocide studies, and someone who lived and worked in Israel, I'm appalled by the violence that has unfolded since the horrific attacks of Hamas on October 7th. For the past 65 days, Gaza and the West Bank have seen one of the worst violence and genocidal actions committed by Israel since 1948, with an official death toll of 24,000 Palestinians based on the Euromed Human Rights Monitor, most of them being children and women as of yesterday. 25,000 children have become orphans since the beginning of October. 25,000 children. Just last Friday, the United States vetoed again a plea for a ceasefire despite mass protests in the world and in the United States by united citizens of different faith and backgrounds. More than 61% of Americans support a ceasefire, but still here we are. Over the past few weeks, we have seen policies changing slowly by US senators, coming out with their support for a ceasefire. However, Palestinians don't have time. They are being bombed by the hour. Another day of ongoing war is another day of suffering, not only for the Palestinian civilians, but also the remaining 130 plus Israeli captives. While we see the leadership at Capitol Hill struggling with decisions and the basic claim of human rights for everyone, we have faith in the power of people, grassroots movements, and global solidarity. On a day that has called for a global strike to demand a ceasefire, we are standing here today to urge you to use your power as mayor and commissioners to create a ceasefire resolution to show solidarity with the Palestinian people and communities here in the United States, but specifically in Kentucky. We believe that if towns and cities in Kentucky, be it small or large, come together in a united call for action, we are able to reach our elected official in the House of Representatives, who then can use their power to call on the federal government. Please behold the values of humanity and be, as Danville proclaims, to be the first. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, I didn't get your name. Would you leave your name and your contact for us? Ashley, would you get that from her? So we won't lose contact? Yes, sir. You want? Oh, are you with her? Yeah, I'm with her. Okay, why don't you let her come on next then? Okay, hold on, big man. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, no. Hi. My name is Tasha Bender. I'm actually a local business owner here in Danville, and I am also here to speak for the millions of Palestinians who are currently suffering and the 17,000 plus who have been killed over the last 65 days by Israeli forces that are fueled by American weapons and tax dollars, which makes it all of our problem. At least 7,000 of these deaths alone were children, and the average age of everyone killed is just 5 years old. As we speak, Congress is deciding if we should send more money and weapons to Israel to continue being complicit in their war crimes, while the entire world opposes this in the streets and in the United Nations. So I'm urging the city of Danville to assist me and others with creating a ceasefire resolution to pass on to our state officials to make it known that we don't support genocide and neither should they. And they bring up October 7th, but they don't mention the 76 years of Israel's illegal occupation, dehumanization, refusal of equal rights, and blatant terrorism towards Palestinians prior to that day. But let's just focus on the terrorism that we're currently paying Israel billions of dollars to commit. Leaving premature babies alone for weeks to starve and suffocate, shooting children for throwing rocks at tanks, bombing buildings full of civilians, leaving behind only rubble and human remains, forcing 2 million people into an area half the size of Boyle County, cutting off access to food, water, electric, medical supplies, and shelter, forcing doctors to perform surgeries on dirty floors without anesthesia or pain meds, throwing grenades into church during prayer, forcing people to look through rows of bodies for their children, targeting clearly marked journalists, medical staffs, hospitals, ambulances, churches, schools, and refugee camps, as well as indiscriminately killing children and the elderly. They will continue to terrorize, kill, and destroy if we don't speak up. And I'm sorry, but we are way past the point of sugarcoating these atrocities for anyone's comfort, because this should make you uncomfortable. If you don't have enough compassion for Palestinian lives to support a ceasefire, you should at least care about where your taxes go, our national security, and the politicians that get paid to prioritize Israel's interests over American interests. Remember, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere, and silence is acceptance. Please do not accept genocide. Please stand for our community and humanity. All we ask for is your time. Please help us urge our state to support a ceasefire.
Thank you, ma'am. I think the young man back there was next, and then I'll get you, sir.
I think most of you know me. I'm Michael Mingy. I live here in town. I wasn't going to speak on this, but since they started, as far as I know, I'm an American. I stand with Israel. We are allies with them, and that's all I'm going to say. What I wanted to say was I was disappointed that the fact that the Danville Economic Development Group took down the video of the promotion for downtown Danville and Boyle County. Instead of focusing on the negatives, I hope that the next video is just as good as the first one. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
My name is Ibrahim Alabusi. I'm a student at Center College. And like many of you, I was at the Christmas parade on Friday. The sense of community, the immense joy and excitement, and all the love that underlined all of it brought me a lot of warmth, especially considering that I am an international student and I'm away from home. My friends and I were sitting by the curb in front of the Presbyterian Church, and happy little children constantly showered us with candy and laughter. I bet that day became an important part of their childhoods, and I felt grateful that this childhood was being permeated by joy and love and giving. The warmth I felt that day, however, was incomplete, because while we celebrated, there is a father who had to carry his children's limbs in a plastic bag. There is a mother who was forced to let her living infant decompose in an evacuated hospital's incubator. And there are children upon children upon children whose bodies were brutalized beyond recognition of even their own parents. This is an extremely small fraction of the reality that Palestinians in Gaza have been living and dying in for the past 65 hellish days. Where is our humanity if we allow political necessity and strategic allyship and historical allyship to rationalize this loss of life in Gaza? Where is our humanity if we choose to continue living in ignorant bliss while human beings are being relentlessly bombed and displaced and murdered with our own taxpayer money? I urge you, I call upon you as city officials, I call upon you as parents, I call upon you as siblings, I call upon you as human beings to create a ceasefire resolution and support it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Wait a minute.
Thank you, Mayor, and everyone on the commission. Okay, every year, $3.8 billion is sent to Israeli army from America. Of that dollar amount, Danville, Kentucky is responsible for $24,000 that is sent to Israel's military. If we think that Danville is innocent in all this and is not involved in this situation, has nothing to do with it, that is not true. We are involved. Each person in our community sends the equivalent of $25 to Israel to support bombing and killing of men, women, and children in Israel and Palestine. Of those people who have passed, that's 17,000. That's the equivalent of the city of Danville. The people who have been displaced from their homes, that number equates to roughly the population of Louisville. The money that we are sending from Danville to Israel is enough to pay for housing units, new elementary schools, to support 16,000, the placement of solar panels. And it would also pay for the college expenses for 6 students, and instead we're paying for bombs. As a member of deaf community and of the deaf community here in Danville, I side with Palestine, and over 15,000 people in Gaza are deaf. And I know the deaf school in that area, the Alpha Luna Deaf School, they have reportedly had family members of students and staff go missing. I'm an alumni of Kentucky School for the Deaf. These are my deaf brothers and sisters. I do not want my Danville money being used to produce bombs that are killing members of my deaf community. It doesn't matter if they move.
They've already lost their homes. They've already lost their livelihoods. They've already lost their schools. So I would like to ask Danville to please do something to find a way to reroute that money so that it's not being used for bombs in Gaza. The UN is requesting that their money is no longer being sent there too. I would ask if both sides would do their part to stop this from happening. Thank you.
We need her name for the record, please.
Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Rick O'Neill. I'm a student at Center College, and I'm here today to say that we spend $28 million a year just from Kentucky to support Israel and its ethnic cleansing and settler colonialism of the Palestinian people. I'm here to demand that we stop killing the brothers and sisters in Gaza, that we stop killing the mothers and fathers and the sons and daughters in Gaza. I think Danville should draft a ceasefire resolution to end our support of the atrocities and the crimes against humanity that have been committed in the past 2 months. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? We don't usually respond, but we will definitely take your comments to heart as a commission, as individual citizens, as human beings. We've already been doing some things. I personally been doing some things, but you've asked your city and local government to consider a ceasefire resolution. We will definitely have a discussion. Thank you all for your attendance. Please come back. We meet the second and fourth Mondays at 5:30. This is our only meeting for the month of December, but starting back in January, we'll have 2 meetings each month. Feel free to come back and visit us. All right? We want to know what's going on from your perspective. Okay? Thank you all. Anyone else? Here at the public? All right. Commissioners is, oh, Commissioner Holland says it's break time. It's, okay.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
5 minutes? 2 minutes? 2?
2, 5?
That's fine.
All right, we can break for 5 minutes. Okay. Oh, I'll walk out. You won't be the only one who will. Agenda was scheduled commissioner comments, and I've been told I'm not allowed to skip that. So are there any commissioner comments very briefly?
I just want to say thank you to staff for all that they did for the parade and the tree lighting. And the tree lighting was nice, even though it was raining, and that whole day was nice. And I saw a lot of you out there wet, and thank you for that. Thank you for doing that. And then also the parade and all of the lights downtown.
Thank you, ma'am. We all agree with that. Anyone else? Other comments? Let's move right along then. Payment of the bills. Chair will entertain a motion to pay the, I guess, the November bill list, December 11th bill list.
I move for approval of the bill list, which totals $1,328,465.96.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions, comments? All those in favor of paying our bills, say aye.
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 Those opposed? Thank you all. Ms. Compton, municipal order 121101-2023. Yes,
Good
ma'am.
evening. Yes, so I have been in discussions over the last, year and a half-ish with Earl about updating our purchasing policies and procedures. We have some, a lot of city staff don't know it because they aren't super available, just out of lack of practice over the years. They also haven't been updated probably as often as we should have over the years. I don't honestly know the last time they were actually updated. I don't have a version that sets the date. And to be fair, I didn't go back and look at the commission meetings from years past to find out.
The most current version I had when reviewing yours was from 2002,
Okay.
just to let you know.
Well, the copy, the PDF copy did say 2006, so they may have been 2006. But, so it's time for an update. We wanted to get closer to state compliance of, we're not out of compliance, but state thresholds, to be more in line to what actual procedures are in-house. We don't have a line-for-line change because the original versions that we did have were PDFs, and I didn't want to retype the whole thing. So in substance, they are very similar, but there are some big changes that we're requesting. The biggest is the purchase threshold. So currently, we have a threshold of $5,000. Under that, you just need a department head supervisor approval, and you can move forward with that purchase. Over $5,000 and under $20,000, you need to obtain 3 quotes and then have myself or the city manager sign off and that department head, and they can move forward with that purchase. Over $20,000, and we are required to get bids or meet some very few exceptions or be a sole source, that kind of option. State thresholds are quite a bit above that. The bid level is $40,000 at the state, and I think that intermediate level is at $20,000, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But we are requesting to move our thresholds up to $10,000, and then that mid-range from 10 to 30, and then over 30 to receive bids. We didn't want to move completely to the state level since we haven't upped them in a while. But this, it allows staff to have more flexibility. There are a lot of things that you cannot purchase under $5,000, which seems a lot maybe to the public, but when you're talking about equipment or Marshall's utility pipes, things like that, it's really hard to find some things that are under $5,000. Some things it's impossible.
Yeah, let me jump in there on that, Lee, if you don't mind that I interrupt you. But I agree with that concept. And so for me, the purchasing policy, we've not quickly adapted the states. They moved to that $30,000 threshold a couple years ago, a few years ago now. They moved to 40. Still don't want to do that. We just can't. I think that's too high for a local government. Notwithstanding, though, we do own a large utility, and so the way I gauge the usefulness or the effectiveness of the the policy is what the utility can do, because they're the ones, the bulk of the purchasing comes from them on some of those things that are, you know, the other departments are and Public Works too, the Public Works and the utility, but the other departments tend to be a smaller dollar amount anyway per purchase, and certainly within the purview of the department head. And so for me, the cost to replace a hydrant, if we were going to farm that out, it's above a single hydrant now is above that $5,000 number. And so logically, we need to move the policy to some other number above 5, because that it really puts the utility in a gridlock situation whenever you can't even do something as simple as a fire hydrant replacement install with a valve included, without just going out and causing that to happen quickly. It just is taking far too long. So that's the mindset that I look at, or I guess, what I consider when I'm looking at that policy. What can we actually get done on the utility side with those purchasing limits? And certainly to replace a hydrant's within the purview of the department head typically, and we rely on him to make that judgment call. And so that's why our policy needs to keep in line with that level of responsibility, the way I look at it. If that makes sense. I know that's maybe a backwards way to look at those dollar amounts, but that's kind of the way I value those.
I think it makes good sense, yeah. And I'm surprised about the $5,000. I didn't realize it was that low. Okay.
Yeah.
So we need a motion to pass this municipal order.
I'll make a motion to approve municipal order 121101-2023. Are those the only changes, is the limits?
The other substantial change, which isn't really substantial, is the per diem rate for travel. We're suggesting it be changed to the IRS standard rate. Right now, it's just $45, which may have been the IRS rate at some point in time. So
Thank you.
that's our recommendation currently.
Thank you, ma'am.
Everything else is procedural in that a lot of things that we do have physically changed. For instance, with our new software, requesting a requisition, a purchase order is all done electronically now, whereas the old policy, you had a a white copy, a yellow copy, and a pink copy that had to go somewhere. So those kind of procedural changes that are just not accurate, those were updated.
Do we have a second on that?
No, I'm sorry.
Do we get a second?
I'll give a second.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Ms. Compton, insurance premium discussion.
So if you all remember from the last meeting, we had brought up a discussion on changing the health insurance premium tax rate. Currently, the city assesses that at 0 compared to all the other risk rates for accident, life, et cetera, which are set at 8%. And we are currently recommending that be increased to 2% to help fund the changes going forward for the police and fire compensation that we did. And based on the feedback we got at the discussion last time, we thought it would be prudent to bring more information about our revenue streams as a whole to the discussion to show that, we are limited in some ways of where we can generate new and different types of revenue. So within your packet, I did give you an update to the memo that kind of describes the details of each revenue type. The 3 largest categories that you can change are your property taxes, which is assessed every year, your occupational license. We are currently capped on those rates. Those can't go up. They certainly can't come down. We don't suggest that in any way at this time. And then your insurance premium. And if you scroll on through the packet, I did print a couple of large sheets because that is a really hard to read document because there's a lot of information. We did provide you with the last 8 years of tax rates for your property taxes. Those rates have gone down, in the last 8 fiscal years because we have taken what is considered the compensating rate to generate the same amount of revenue and only generate new revenue on new property. So this has resulted in a decrease in your property tax rate, barring your motor vehicle rate, which hasn't changed. Your net profits and your occupational tax rates, those, like I said, are caps at the maximum amount allowed at 1.75 and 1.9%. Property taxes, you assess every year. There is an option to take the compensating rate, to take a rate between 0 and 4%. And then the third option is to take a rate that is over 4%, but that is, that requires a public hearing and it can be rejected by voters. And that's a long-term revenue stream. Changes to that are very minor with that 4% limit, essentially. So large changes to that would generate small rate changes will generate small additional streams of revenue. An estimated $84,000 additional dollars in revenue with a 4% change compared to last year. That next page in your packet is your insurance premium rates over the last 8 fiscal years as well. We've compared it to average Kentucky cities. In every category, we're pretty close to the other cities. The average was 7.62. We're at 8%, except for health insurance premiums, where we're at 0. Those other cities are at 5.56% on average. There is a deadline to change this if that's the route that's why we're bringing it up at this stage, because there is a very strict deadline by the Department of Insurance. And then we wanted to kind of go over some exemptions to this tax. I know that was brought up as a concern by one of our citizens last time. Policies for insurance provided to state employees, health insurance policies issued to individuals, high deductible plan policies issued through the Kentucky Access Program, which helps high-risk individuals obtain and maintain insurance, paid to, and insurance premiums paid to insurance companies by nonprofit self-insurance groups or self-insurance entities whose members consist of school districts, cities, counties, charter county governments, urban county governments, consolidated local governments, unified local governments, school districts, or other political subdivisions. So those are exemptions that are carved out from being taxed for this. Your other category of tax that you can change are, we did want to recognize that ABC, your alcohol beverage control, that does specifically go toward police and fire. But those rates, we collect a fairly small amount of revenue on those specific categories. We did also include, this is your big sheets, a revenue trend for the last 8 fiscal years as well, to compare what we've collected over those eight years. And when you look back at those insurance changes, you can see the reflection in those categories where there are big changes. That first page is your property taxes, and you'll see a very similar steady rate of revenue over those years because we have taken the compensating rate. So you don't see a big change because we have intentionally chosen otherwise. On page 2, that top category, you'll see your occupational tax rate. And I believe it's fiscal year 17-18, and then 18-19 is where your rate jumps. And you can see that significant increase that occurs as that trends up. And like I said, those rates are capped. You don't have an option to increase those if you desire to in the future to fund something else. And then your insurance premium rates, Those quarterly rates can be reflected. I've added some dialogue in there so that you can read through and see specifically when those rates, comparatively, your rates when we went back when we made the change to 8% from the 10%, you can see that reflected in those collections as of this October and November. So all of that to say is that when you're trying to fund a new initiative in your general fund, those are your biggest changes that you can make. Those are your biggest options. And adding a new source of revenue through the health insurance premium is probably the smallest change to impact that you can make, in my opinion, to fund what you need to fund. That's a lot of words, and there's a lot of information in that packet. What questions do you guys have?
Who would pay? With all the exceptions, who would be the ones paying?
So it'd be your group health insurance. So like your corporations, hospital insurance, Center College, group health, and those. I mean, sometimes you don't like to say, oh, well, the hospital is paying. They are exempt from certain taxes because they're nonprofit. So this is the way they can pay part of their share. So essentially, the majority of it will come from group health insurance by corporations and businesses.
What about your senior citizens that have supplemental policies?
Those, I believe, are covered under the exemption. I will have to check with somebody that's more knowledgeable about
That's
insurance.
just a question I would have.
I think at one time, you know, the perception was you wanted to encourage folks to get health insurance. I think with the way the exemptions are structured now, I think it's hard to say that that's not been considered in the law. Like they've carved out those people that would be hard to financially get coverage and as you read through the exemptions. And the argument really, too, is about diversification. So the fire chief was here last time. He talked about his call volume increasing from below 1,000 to almost 3,000. And, you know, a big chunk of that is we do have EMTs on staff at the fire department. We respond to medical. We respond to everything to support the EMS. And so that there is an argument to be made that we do have direct costs tied to the mitigation of health occurrences. And so that is, you know, not a consumption basis, but the people that will use the system don't always pay property taxes, right? And so not everything can be funded through property taxes. Otherwise, you're going to be capturing a very small group of people. And that's an unfair, really, approach. This is the idea behind this, to me, is a little bit more of a consumption-based tax, consumer-based, which, you know, can make sense to me, too.
Did you say the self-insured were excluded?
Yes, that's one of the exemptions is individual. Well, it's considered if it's considered an individual plan by it's U.S. code something SEC. I've got it on a slide somewhere.
Okay.
There's a lot of U.S. code that I've never even heard of that it references. So what they reference it as an individual plan, and then the high deductible plans are also exempt, which is a lot of those are like HSAs. If that's the only form of insurance that you would have.
Okay, other questions or comments about the insurance premium?
Yeah, I'd like to ask a question. I talked to city manager earlier. He was pretty insightful, but alcohol tax, goes to the police department, but it's earmarked for alcohol-related.
Yes, so
Things.
each year we justify our rates for alcohol. We usually do that around June or July. And to be fair, the city hasn't raised its alcohol rates in the last, since we became eligible to sell alcohol. And all of that does have to be justified by the activity related to policing within, the area. We certainly exceed that. We definitely spend more time, personnel costs, equipment costs on alcohol-related items than we bring in revenue. There is an opportunity going into the next fiscal year for us to raise those rates if that's probably a good hard look is needed at it. It won't generate as much revenue as needed to fully fund any police activity. I don't think you're allowed to do that anyway, because I don't think we could say our police activity is fully alcohol-related. But we do need to assess that going forward. We hadn't in the last fiscal year, there was a changeover in the ABC administrator, and I think we wanted to kind of see where it was going to remain stable. But those rates could be raised, I think by the drink rate, which is 5%, I think that is capped at its highest level. I'll have to double check. I'm not as familiar of the rules on what we can raise those to or not. But the packaged malt and packaged distilled spirits are a little less than that, and those could possibly be raised to help fund police and response.
Yeah. I don't think they need to be looked at, but we certainly can. It's 3%, 4%, and 5%. I did look at them. Because if it's earmarked, I always kind of wonder if we're bringing in $1 million a year, but we can only spend $750 on alcohol related. Where's the other $250?
Well, we bring in approximately 700-ish a year in ABC related items, and we overspend that significantly. So I'll be sure to point it out as we're going through the budget season and when we go, because we do have to, you all have to pass the rates each year. And we do, I work with Tony and he provides me this is how many calls we've had related to alcohol, and proportionally of our budget or of our salaries, for instance, that could be related. This is what we spent on, I'm going to make this part up because I don't know of police equipment, like a breathalyzer cost. This is how many breathalyzers we had to buy this year, and all of that can be attributed to alcohol. So we at least for the 2 cycles I've been here, we have far exceeded the revenue we brought in alcohol policing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we've given you, and Lee's done a terrific job with the summary, really highlighting all of the major tax rates and the locations for taxes that we have, and how they compare against the average city that we can look at the map and identify cities that are like Danville. You'll notice we didn't include Lexington and Louisville, for example, because they're really not like us. And so you would like to attach a cost to the revenue source. So in the same way, your garbage fee is directly linked to your garbage contract, so that the citizens that use the service pay for the service theoretically. In the same way, the alcohol ordinance, the users that are paying the tax are the ones that are contributing to the need to enforce it. So in other words, if you're coming to a restaurant to consume alcohol, you're paying a tax there, and we've had to administer that license. So there's an expense tied to that license. And so the thing I like to think about when we're looking at our taxes is the property and occupational taxes is really for general government operations, public works, just your general government at large. But your insurance premium tax is really, if you look, is really tied to our fire department, our police department, things that they can, by improving and investing in that service, you can mitigate some of the liability or some of your insurance premium cost even. And so our insurance, our fire, your homeowner's insurance is set based to a certain extent on how our fire department is rated, right? And we all are aware of that. And so by investing in your fire department, you're driving down insurance premium costs overall. So I like the idea, and so as you look at those taxes, I'd encourage you to think about the things that are causing the expense and then what's the source of that revenue, like in the same way we look at alcohol, right? Your insurance premium is tied to the police and fire, in other words, for the largest part.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from the commission? Is staff wanting us to take action on this tonight?
I think we needed some guidance on whether we continue forward and bring back a resolution or a ordinance change, or not.
Yeah.
So.
And I would say the rest of my commission is that if we take a look at health, which, it's a good point was made and good counterpoints made on whether we should tax that or not. But I would also think that if you're looking at the averages, we did annex the airport, and probably 1% on inland marine, if we're going to go with health, ought to be considered as well, in my opinion, because we're providing fire protection to that area.
Well, I think if I read staff correctly, since we voted for the first responders increase in salary at this midpoint of the year, they're suggesting that this revenue will help offset the cost of that or take care of the cost of that. I think it's what they're saying. I think they're saying that the 2 or the 3%. And if we go to the 4%, first time out of the chute, that'd be a shocker to a lot of people, but that would, I guess, generate some revenue that would help offset some increases coming in the next budgetary cycle for first responders as well as the rest of the staff. But I think that's what I hear you all saying.
I mean, me personally, I would rather, I like to have more time to think about it because we did lower the insurance premium tax, which you're saying is directly tied, funds some of the police and fire, and we lowered that 2%. Mm-hmm. And, and that was this year. So that's just me. I'd like to see other options.
And that's a good point. What you're trying to do is levelize it a little bit. I mean, when you have one category that pays nothing, it's not necessarily, and you're trying to manage it, it's not really, one could argue that it's not really fair to charge the homeowner's policies an inflated amount to offset costs tied to health insurance, which is what you're doing at 10% versus 0%, right? Like that is the argument. I'm not saying that's what it is.
I'm just trying to understand.
I'm trying to debate it with you.
Right.
Right.
Who pays it? And I understand it's businesses more, is what you're saying. And I would like you to check on the senior, on the.
Yeah, I will check with that.
And
I would hypothesize it because that's the supplemental and senior, those insurances are, unless you're buying into an additional plan, that those are tax exempt because they're usually trickled down from the federal government. But I'll check and see if I can find out from the Department of Insurance.
That's just me. I would like some more information or some time to look at it.
No, that's great. It's good.
Well, how about this? Why don't we put this on the table and let staff recommend a special call meeting between now and end of the year to deal with just this topic about do we or do we not increase this or implement this health insurance tax?
I think we can bring it back January the 8th and not necessarily have a special call meeting unless you're wanting to have a special call meeting just to talk about this.
No, I'm just, if your time frame for January the 8th is okay, then I'm okay too. I just thought we might get it done before the first of the year. If that's not a rush for you guys, then we're okay.
Well, I think we want to make sure we're addressing the issue if that's what you all want to continue to talk about. If you want to stop talking about it, we can. But certainly we know there's expenses there that we're incurring with, and we, the compensation plan was awarded. So, we want to encourage you to consider everything without going into the budget year. If you wait to the budget year and if you wait, the deadline, is it March 30th or March 1st?
It's March 21st. It's 100 days before the end of the fiscal year. So you really can't wait until much beyond the very beginning of, unless, like, if we start our budget season in February, then you might get it in then, because we would have to have 2 readings on the ordinance.
Yeah.
So ideally by the end of February.
At best. So if you're going to have to make a decision about this, you'd rather go ahead and deal with it sooner rather than later. If you get into February, March, February, that's cutting it close and probably going to require you to have a special call meeting to fit it in. But the thing that I want to point out is that if you make a change to that number, you're going to get it in July 1st of 2024. If you don't do it by March, it's an entire year past that before you see the impact, right? And so I want to make sure the reason we're talking about it, and I want to encourage you to talk about it now, I'm going to go ahead and make a decision, over the next month or so, is because of that fact. If you don't act by March, then you're talking about 25 before you see any change, right?
That would be a major impact on next year's budget, because we've got this increase as well as proposed increases in the 24-25 budget.
And Lee, could we see the numbers for a change in alcohol tax?
Yeah, I'll try to track them down. It was
I
very
was
hard to
hoping-
find other cities. They don't publish them online like they do other taxes. I was very surprised about that.
But we might look at changing it.
So I'll look at, I'll bring some stuff back about what that would look like. It needs to be assessed every year, and we do assess it. As a revenue generator, it's not a big one, just considering the local number of licensees that we have and the funds that they bring in. Now, it's going to expand because we do have new businesses coming in, but I just can't imagine that it expands the same extent as the other options on the table. But I can bring that back for sure.
I was hoping it would be more of a revenue generator.
It's really not, and it's not intended to be, but based on like the state statutes, it's intended to truly only be to the extent that the policing is necessary.
It's more of a cost recovery tool than a revenue stream for a city.
Just the way I think consumption-based tax, I'd rather tax alcohol, which is not super healthy, than tax health insurance,
Yeah.
which we are encouraging.
Absolutely,
So
we just are.
that would be my first choice if that panned out.
Okay, I suggest we move this item, table it, and we move on. But again, thanks for the new information. It's very revealing.
We'll try to do that at the January meeting. We'll try to have some comparison for you, just so you can continue to see it.
Okay.
Yeah, it'd be good to have figures on 1 or 2% on health, and my suggestion, unless you all don't like it, and that's to increase inland to 5%, just see what that looks like.
Increase what?
Didn't we make
I
some
think-
sort of
I don't
promise
think
to
we
the
can
airport?
on that one yet. I think that one has a, I'll double check the resolution that was passed with that change, but I think that one has a 5-year period
Oh,
that we can assess it different as part of the annex agreement. I think, though, that's probably up in maybe 2027.
The thing that I would argue with the inland marine that's a little bit nuanced is that your largest industrial users are the ones paying that tax at the airport, and those are also the ones that's paying the largest amount of property taxes, that are also the ones paying the largest amount of occupational net profits, that are also the largest so the entities that typically pay the airport tax contribute in every category except for like alcohol, probably. And usually it's among your largest. And so certainly that's not an intentional reduction necessarily or leaving them behind, but that's designed to be incentive for those businesses that you want to locate in your community, if that makes sense.
All right, let's move along then. Next item is the KIA loan applications. Mr. Carrier. Oh, Leo, before we move on, thanks for the data and stuff that you prepared for us. And also, before we move on, would it be the consensus of the commission that we ask staff to look into a ceasefire resolution that we might try to pass sometime here real soon? Is that appropriate for us to ask staff to do that?
Mayor, we don't have any home rule authority on that subject at all.
Okay.
And so any resolution you would have wouldn't carry any weight at all. So it's certainly not necessarily inappropriate to have healthy dialogue about subjects like that, but that's not something that the city commission should really weigh in on to have any credibility. Stephen, you want to add to that?
Yeah, not only do we not have any home rule, we've never involved ourselves in any national security measure. To that extent, any other social justice issue that takes place on a federal level, either budgetary or to whatever extent.
Okay.
So I would say it's an inappropriate source of local government resources to involve and counter to what you're actually formed to do, and furthermore, lack statutory authority to even engage in.
Okay. Thank you. We just feel bad. Let's go on. Here's the next item then.
I mean, clearly put, so it is put to bed. I mean, it's a wholly inappropriate jurisdiction to deal with an issue such as what was presented to you tonight.
Oh, I accept
Yeah.
that. I just want to get it out there because
Yeah.
people are watching this. Okay. Mr. Carrier?
Thank you, Mayor. My first agenda item tonight is in regards to pursuit of two Kentucky infrastructure loan applications. One is for the Danville Lead and Copper Replacements Project, and the other is for Danville Lead and Copper Inventory and Assessment Project. This is all born out of some recent findings based on EPA direction on lead and copper replacements within the next 10 years, and some improved tap sampling and lowering the lead action level in our drinking water system. So these are two projects that we'll be pursuing. This is simply just the authority to go ahead and pursue the application. They're due December the 21st, so I'll have those done before that time. And then if we were to be chosen by the KIA board to be authorized for that funding, we'd have to come back to the commission at that point in time and then get the okay to pursue that fund in the future if we wanted to.
I'll move for approval of Resolution 2023-121102.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
Any other comments or questions?
Thank you for
Yes.
working on these.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we've actually had pretty good results over the years, so we're trying to keep that push forward.
All in favor?
aye.
Thank you, Mayor. The next agenda item is, the city recently advertised for granular activated carbon project filter GAC number 3 project, and this is removal of existing carbon filter material from we got 4 GAC filters at the water treatment plant. There's very large capacity filters that we run all our water through. So annually you need to go through and you have a company, you bid out the work, and the company comes in and takes that carbon out and cleans it and brings it back. So in that process too, this time we're actually going to include some virgin carbon material to go in to replace that while they're cleaning it. So that'll actually give us the flexibility in the future to have what's called a swing load in reserve in case we ever need it in the future. So instead of having to go through an additional process like this. So on November 7th, the city received 3 bids ranging from $345,000 to $517,470. Carbon Activated Corporation was the low bid, and the recommendation is to accept that low bid of $345,000.
I'll move to approve Resolution 2023-121103.
Second.
Oh, one thing I want to add, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
To this was, this is simply for assigning the low bid agreement with this particular vendor, but there's a few stipulations that they will have to address before we can actually give them a notice to proceed in the future. Okay. And those are outlined in the resolution, one of which is the vendor will have to provide NSF certification for any facilities which will be used to provide the reactivation activities for this project prior to starting any such work. They expect to do that by the end of January, so we should be good there. Vendor will be required to provide a satisfactory performance bond for the project prior to starting any work, and then the vendor will be required to apply for a business license to do work in the city of Danville prior to starting any work, which they've actually already applied for.
Yeah.
So there are some stipulations before they can get the notice to proceed, but we just want to make sure we got that in the resolution also.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Are those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Marshall?
Thank you, Mayor. The next agenda item is in regards to change order number 8 for the wastewater treatment plant Phase 1 construction contract with Smith Contractors Incorporated. This is actually a $0 increase, but this is a time increase. We back in mid of this summer, we had experienced some multiple delays with some of our circuit board equipment and various electrical gear. So you've heard me go on and on in commission meetings past where that's a chain reaction of events, that once you start to have delays from those vendors for certain electrical equipment, you can't do X, Y, and Z down the road until you get those in place. So part of that is showing itself in this particular change order. So this will be an extension of 150 days to complete the electrical work and perform all equipment startups. So once you get the electrical equipment in, you have to go through the startup phase and acceptance of those materials and new equipment, and then go into warranty details and so on and so on. So there's a time stipulation for that too, even once you get it all in place. So this is just simply for a time extension of 150 days. So the new contract significant completion will be March 25th, 2024.
Okay, thank you, sir. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2023-121104.
Thank you, ma'am.
Second.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, thank you, motion carries. Marcia, you got the next one too. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. This agenda item is in regards to acquisition of an additional utility easement in the vicinity of the Ghost Pike Road here in town for future construction of 15-inch sanitary sewer gravity lines and appurtenances. This will be lumped into a group that we've already acquired easements on over the past couple of years, and this will be the final easement to start the process of letting that work to construction.
Oh, sounds good. Commission, what's your pleasure? Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve Resolution 2023-121105.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, sir. Hearing no other questions or comments, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Josh Morgan is AWOL, but I heard somebody sitting in for him tonight.
I'm gonna try. Do you want to talk about the surplus? You worked with him enough to be able to talk about that maybe?
So there is a walk-in cooler and freezer at Jenny Rogers that the school doesn't think that they will utilize when they transition down there for the daycare. And there's also several pieces of commercial kitchen equipment. We wanted to get your all's ideas on, we really wanted to just kind of communicate that with the community, that these items could possibly be up for surplus and auction soon, in case there are like food pantries or other school districts that may be able to bid on these items. So this is just pretty much an announcement that we're gonna be surplusing those in the beginning of the year.
Thank you, ma'am.
Are they in working order?
They are.
Okay. And can we just donate them? Or, no?
No, you may not. Surplus law in Kentucky won't allow that to occur.
Okay, but they could be cheap. For like a
Depending
food
upon those
pantry.
that bid upon
Okay.
on them, they could be.
We really wanted to decide kind of like if we wanted to go the Gov Deals route and maybe get another government entity that could possibly bid on them, or if we wanted to do a public auction and go that route. So we just kind of wanted to gauge you all on that and again, announce that we possibly will have that stuff coming up soon.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, Josh, stand in. You want to do the next one?
The next one is the playground installation. You'll recall in 2021 Land and Water Grant that we've gotten permission to proceed with. This is for the bids to install the playground equipment. The bidder through the Sourcewell cooperative bidding system is for Bluegrass Recreation, $82,650. The city will be reimbursed for 50% of that through the grant, which is a terrific grant opportunity for those two parks. And so certainly staff recommends proceeding with the bid as presented.
Yes. Is there a motion?
Move to accept resolution 2023-12-1106.
Second.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed? Thank you all. Item number, 121107. Mr. Coffey, you want to continue with that one?
Thank you. The soccer field that is identified was built with a local grant several years ago. It was seeded and never really was right from a turf quality perspective. Having some experience at the country club with some of our sewer work and their fairways and some things like that, sod is the way to go. And certainly after 7 or 8 years of fighting that turf, staff I had talked to Josh and Parks and Rec a little bit about it, and so they've provided this opportunity to go ahead and get the field sodded, which would be right. Once it's grown in, it'll be maintainable. It will be very consistent. You won't have the potholes where you have twisted ankles and the ball landed and not rolling properly. So if you want to compare it, if you go to the Bull County's turf field, which is up there where they've just completed near the Black Barn, that's a good sodded Bermuda field, right? And so what we'd like to do is get our fields a little bit higher quality so that you can actually have an effective soccer tournament on it. And so this bid accomplishes that, and it is a Highland Sod Farms is the low bidder in the amount of $41,871.06. And it will be coming out of the Parks and Rec capital program.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve resolution 2023-12-1107.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, sir. Hearing no other questions, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carries. 121109, Michael Smith Park change order number 1.
Thank you. In doing the excavation for the project at Michael Smith Park, we knew the old pool was somewhere in the vicinity. We found it. It's in the way. And so what we need is additional dollars for the contractor to do the demolition to the top of the pool so that we can get to the appropriate elevation. The cost increase is $14,308.
Thank you, sir.
Move that we approve resolution 2023-12-1108.
Second.
Was it amended to 09?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, 09.
It's all right. Thank you for the motion and for the second. Hearing no other questions, comments, all those in favor of this change order, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? 12-1110 Stanford Road. Grant MOA.
Thank you. You have a resolution in front of you authorizing the execution of the final recreational trails grant agreement for the pedestrian refuge island or the trail crossing at Stanford Road where the trail where the trail goes up. Right now, it dead ends at the parking lot sitting there on the right-hand side. And it's something you all have addressed multiple times. This is a federal grant, which is required you all to have this approved multiple times through multiple steps. And so this is, the next step is the final grant agreement. And so you'll see it again once we get bids in and you'll have to authorize those bids.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2023-12-1110.
Thank you, ma'am.
Second.
Thank you, sir. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. There is not a need.
There is a need for litigation, property acquisition, and personnel.
I tried.
Come on, man.
I tried.
Will Levis plays here shortly. I want to go watch him play.
Well, we need, Chair needs a motion for a very, very, very brief executive session.
Is it for
Hearing
what?
none, I mean,
What is it?
Chair will
Property
accept the,
acquisition, litigation,
you can have a motion to adjourn, right?
personnel.
We'll make a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of personnel matter pursuant to KRS 618101F, litigation pursuant to KRS 618101C, and property acquisition pursuant to KRS 618101B.
And you
Is that
said
good enough?
limit the meeting to 5 minutes, right?
Friendly amendment.
Donna.
Nobody seconded it.
Is there a second?
Second.
I said that, okay, there is a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're going into executive session.
Second.
Thank you, ma'am. We're back in regular session now. Staff, Commissioner Cottle, you have
I do have a motion.
a motion for us? All right.
I move that we approve an option agreement at the cost of $100 for the possible future purchase of 129 South 4th Street, which may be assigned to a future developer at the discretion of the city.
Well, thank you, sir. Could you repeat that?
You know?
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Thank you. Now, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
No, I have one more recommendation I'd like you all to accept is I would like for you all to authorize the reclassification from seasonal SRO to full-time patrol officer of Todd Davis, back to that full-time.
Thank you, sir.
You just can't leave us, can you?
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Thank you all. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Now, for that motion to adjourn, the clock's got 6:30 up there.
It
All right.
just gave up.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Second.